So I decided to do my education assignment on a game called Fallout 3. I played this game through probably 5 or 6 times, so I'd consider myself an expert on it. The game, it's basically, the reason it appeals to me so much is it's like a post-apocalyptic version of America and the adventure of the character that you play. The audience would be anyone 18 plus, because it's rated M for mature, just because there's a lot of violence that happens. So yeah. So I decided to do my the game starts out in the year 2277, but I'm going to start out by giving just a little bit of backstory to kind of make sense of why the whole situation is happening. So, in 1945, that's basically when the Fallout timeline splits between what's Fallout and what's, the actual timeline. So, all cultural revolution stops. People dress the same, they listen to the same music, the architecture's the same, and black and white TVs, as well as, cars. So, with the cars, it basically takes the same, the amount of oil stays the same, which modern day cars don't take as much oil, they're more efficient. But since these cars never revolutionized, it starts this war called the Resource War, which is basically everyone across the entire world looking for oil. So what happens is Europe invades the Middle East, they drop nuclear weapons on them, which freaks out America. So America creates this secret branch of the government called the Enclave. And the Enclave creates Vault-Tec, and what Vault-Tec does is they install these vaults all over, scattered around the United States. There's 122 of them when war will inevitably break out. So the Middle East runs dry, so China is the next one to be desperately searching for more oil. They invade Alaska, and Alaska is the last resource for oil. So we start another war with them. We find out that the Enclave is testing this virus called the Forced Evolutionary Virus on war prisoners from China. So it's shut down from the U.S. government, but not long after that, in the year 2077, the Great War begins. China drops hundreds and thousands of bombs. Forced Evolutionary Virus was being held, and that spreads everywhere. It creates these things called super mutants, which are they're humans that are basically machines. Basically, they're they just all they want to do is kill humans. They become crazy. They're huge. They're very hard to kill. Creates these things called death claws, which are basically mutated lizards. These humans that become ghouls, who basically live forever. They're around during Fallout 3, and they have been around since the beginning of the Great War. And many other forms of life that become mutated are also in the game. So it's assumed that America and the rest of the world stays at a Fallout for at least 100 years before human life starts to flourish again. So, the game starts out in the year 2277, but I'm gonna start out by... So, the year is 2277, the United States is ruled by President Eden, and the Enclave, obviously, who's the only remnants left of the American government, and they're very corrupt now. They're considered the bad guys. And there's this other group called the Brotherhood of Steel, which is basically the rebel force, basically. And they want to take back from the Enclave. They're the good guys. So, you are a 19-year-old character living in Vault 101, which is a vault that, it's not supposed to open, doesn't let anyone in, doesn't let anyone out. You live with your father, James, and your mother's deceased. They don't really talk about how or why, but she just is. So, you learn how to play the game in there. Basically, it's a tutorial. But the game picks up when your father suddenly leaves the vault, and no one's supposed to leave, so it causes chaos in the vault. The Overseer, who's basically the ruler, the president of the vault, is looking for you. He wants to kill you. And the Overseer's daughter is actually your best friend, and she helps you escape. So you leave the vault, And the story really picks up when you enter this like barren wasteland. That's all that's left of America. There's no plants, there's no vegetation. Anything out there is probably trying to kill you. So you go to this town called Megaton, and it's a city with a bomb in the center of it that's technically still active, but it's not going to explode. You're totally fine. So you're looking, you're like, has anyone seen my father? His name's James, he looks like this, and everyone directs you to the owner of the saloon. And I mean, he makes you pay him for it, but he says, yes, I know where your father's going. He's going to this place called Galaxy News Radio Station. So you travel there on your own. You meet the Brotherhood of Steel there, long story short, and you meet Three Dog, the talk show host. And what he does is he tries to convince people to fight against the Enclave. They're basically like, he's one of the faces of this like rebel force. So he tells you about your father's partner, Dr. Lee. He doesn't know where your father's going, but he knows where your father's partner is. She's in this place called Rivet City. So you go to Rivet City, and it's this old war boat that people actually live on. It's a civilization that's there. And she shows you about, her name's Dr. Lee, and she shows you about this project that her and your father have been doing called Project Purity. And what it is it's this project that'll purify the water in like the lakes, the oceans, the rivers, so that people can drink it. Because it's the apocalypse, and people are dying because they don't have any water. They don't have any clean water. So she takes you to the Jefferson Memorial, which is right by the White House. It's still standing, but it's where the Project Purity was going on. And she expects to find your father there, but what you do find instead, you don't find him, but you find his like journal or diary or something, and says that he's gone to Vault 87 in search for this thing called the Garden of Eden Creation Kit, or GEC, which would basically start the program up. Start the purifier. So you're like, alright, like, I'll just go there, I'll find him, I'll bring him back. So you go there, and it's this, like, the vault is, like, this VR world. So you go in there, you have to enter this pod, and when you get there, you find out that that's where all of the residents are. They're all in this virtual world. The overseer is this dictator that basically is, like, torturing them with whatever he wants to do, whatever his mind says that he, wants to do to them. So you defeat the overseer, you free your father, you reunite after you both exited the pods, and he doesn't find the GEC. So you go back to the Jefferson Memorial. He's trying to find whatever vault has this Garden of Eden Creation Kit. So once you get back to the Jefferson Memorial, you're doing some maintenance. Your father's in the control room, in this chamber, and you hear on the intercom that he's been stopped by Enclave members. So you run back in there. You're with Dr. Lee, and inside the chamber, those are where the controls are, and it's locked. You can see in, you can hear what they're saying, but you just can't get in. It's your father, one of the scientists that came with him, and then 3 Enclave members, including a general. So the Enclave is basically like, well, you can't do this without a permission, and we want in, we want to take over it. And your father's like, well, you can't do that, sorry, it's my project. So in order to pursue it, one of the Enclave members basically shoots and kills the other scientist that's with your father. And your father reacts by flooding the entire chamber with radiation. It kills everyone in there, including himself, except for the one Enclave general who injects himself with this serum that makes him immune to radiation. So your father looks at you, his last words are run. So you, Dr. Lee, and whatever other scientists are in there, you escape the Jefferson Memorial, because the Enclave is obviously coming to, kill you all. So, you make it to this, basically the Brotherhood of Steel, headquarters called the Citadel. And you explain to them what happened, you explain to them what's going on, and they say, oh, well, we know where the Garden of Eden Creation Kit is. It's in this vault called 112. So you travel there because they want to fight back. They want to help you. So you travel there by yourself. To get in, you have to go through this town called Little Lamplight. And for some reason, it's this, civilization that's completely full of children. There's absolutely no adults there, and there's not really an explanation as to why this is a thing. but it's just one of those weird things that Fallout does. So you go through Little Lamplight, you go through this, like, murder pass, you have to fight your way through, and by the time you get to Vault 112, there's, you find out that it's basically, like, the facility where the, forced evolutionary virus was being tested. So, everyone that was in that vault is either dead, crazy, or a super mutant. So, you're looking for the Garden of Eden creation kit, and you find out that it's in this room that's heavily irritated, or, heavily, like, with, radiation. There's so much radiation in there that you can't go in there, and because you'll die. So you're trying to find a way in there, and there's this super mutant that's basically like, please let me out. Like, I'm not crazy, I'm not trying to kill you, they've trapped me in here, like, I just want to get out. So you eventually let him out. He tells you that his name is Fox, and he says, you let me out, I'm gonna go get this Garden of Eden creation kit for you. So he does, and he says, alright, I did a favor for you, you did a favor for me, I'm out. So he leaves. So you're on your way back to the Brotherhood of Steel's headquarters, you're on your way back to the Citadel, and the Enclave stops you. They throw this flash grenade at you, you pass out, they steal the Garden of Eden creation kit, and they bring you back to their headquarters. And once you wake up, they're trying to get you to tell them how to work it, they're trying to get you to take their side, and you're like, no, like, you guys are the people that just killed my father. So they're about to start, basically torturing you for information when the president, because the Enclave is part of the government, the president, you hear the president on the intercom that says, alright, take me to their office, like, yeah, I want to see this person. So you travel up there, and you find out that the president is actually basically just this, like, computer system. And he's like, I'm all for the Project Purity, but I have this modified forced evolutionary virus that'll kill anything that was ever mutated by radiation. That includes ghouls, super mutants, like, any radiated animal. All you have to do is, inject this, and I will let you go. So you agree, and there's a lot of different options you can do, but inevitably the computer system ends up blowing up. So the Enclave is after you. So you have to run out of this facility, you have to fight off a ton of Enclave members. And once you make it out of the building, you're, like, surrounded by them. It looks like you're gonna have to surrender when none other than Fox comes to your rescue. Fox, the super mutant that you saved. He saves you, he brings you back. The Brotherhood of Steel has the Garden of Eden creation kit, and they're like, alright, it's time to fight. So they bring out this, like, giant, like, 40-foot robot that's called the Liberty Prime that basically just, like, clears a path for you to get all the way to the Jefferson Memorial. So all you need to do is enter the building, and when you do, obviously, you're going to need to fight off some Enclave members, because they do want to get in there. And you go in there, you fight them off with this other general named Sarah. Once you get inside, all you have to do is install it, but you hear in the intercom that, like, the Enclave damaged it. Like, if this purifier is not installed right now inside the chamber of the control room, it is going to blow up. It is going to self-destruct. So you have two options. You can run in there yourself, and you can, you'll die of radiation if you go in there. So you can go in there, you can sacrifice yourself, or it's very hard to, high level to do it, but you can actually convince Sarah to do it, but it's very unlikely that she'll do it unless you are a higher level. So, long story short, you have to go in there, you install the Garden of Eden creation kit, and you die, and the game's over. But you saved the world, you go down as this lone wanderer hero that came out of this vault and just saved all of Washington, D.C. But if you decide that you do want to keep playing, you can go out and buy the downloadable content, or the DLC, which will actually allow you to, once you download it, you'll wake up with the Brotherhood of Steel, like, in their, like, medical room, and they're like, oh, like, you survived, like, and you can keep playing. There's plenty of side quests you can do. There's actually more to the story if you get to the DLC, and you can keep fighting the Enclave. It's a really great game. I recommend it so much for people that like open world, like, shooter games. There's plenty of different options you can do. There's like so many different ways to play the game. It's a lot of fun. I really hope that this video, encouraged you to play it, because it is really fun. It is a lot of fun to play this game. So yeah. So the year's